Shabbat Shalom, brothers and sisters.
Shalom.
Welcome back to another Sabbath. It's been a week, so we missed you all. Good to be back. First and foremost, I want to give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshaya, Wa Rowak. For those who do not speak the Hebrew, that is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit spoken in the original Hebrew language. I am Bishop Taz of the House of Judah International Fellowship Church, here with the elder of the ministry, Elder Nathaniah Allah, Yashar Allah. Right? So today we want to remind everybody to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you share this particular lesson so that as many people get this message as possible. Today we're going to be bringing forth a powerful message, talking about some things that are going on in the world as it pertains to scriptures and how to prepare for those particular things. I also want to remind you to register on the website. You see it here below, houseofjudahfellowship.org. We have our store on there, all of our information. If you would like to get baptized in your respective areas, please send a message to houseofjudahfellowship.org, and the elder will get with you as soon as he can. We also have our tithes and donations for those who are baptized into the church and you would like to send tithes to the ministry. We have our Cash App right here above our heads. That is HO Judah IFC. Whether it be for feast days, whether it be for the stream, however you would like to contribute. If you follow here on YouTube and you've been blessed by the ministry, please feel free to donate, because it does cost to do this work. So right. We appreciate all the help. Now, we had an interview 2 days ago with Elder Arya Gabar and Deacon Rakah Malak of the Lion and King of Gathering of Christ Church. We did a great interview with them. I had an awesome time. Great brothers, talking about some of the things that they're up to business-wise and music-wise. I just released a new song called All About My Chain. So make sure y'all go up there to Lion and King on YouTube and check that out. We have a short clip. We're going to go ahead and run that right now.
I was living in a world as y'all were, and I was living a life of being a sorcerer. You know what I'm saying? Selling potions to my people or to the people. And at this time, Elder Arya, he was already, transitioning from that life into the truth. Me, I was trying to get it. You know what I'm saying? Trying to go to the next level.
Wait, let them know what a sorcerer is in case some new people don't know.
Well, a sorcerer is like basically selling potions, you know what I'm saying, like marijuana. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was doing. I was selling marijuana and going to the next step of, selling, the white stuff or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? But basically, I was stepping to that next level. I was already in it for a little short period of time. And it came to a time I was like a week before going into doing something very crazy, like basically about to take some people's lives to, gain more, if you would say. And I had a phone call with my brother, you know what I'm saying? And he called, we spoke right on the time. And like I said, we was a week before I was about to go into, doing that thing or whatnot. And he was like, man, listen, let me tell you something. He said, Abraham had a brother and they both walked through the fire. And, his brother didn't survive. Abraham survived because Abraham had faith and he was walking with the Most High. But his brother was halfway in, halfway out. You know what I'm saying? And when he told me that, it kind of like pricked my spirit a little bit, because I'm like, me as a young man, I was very considerate. I'm always considering and weighing everything in a balance, you know what I'm saying, like before I make a move. So I thought on it and I was like, man, I need this money though. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm reading this Bible, and mind you, before I came into the truth, we was always reading the Bible from a very young age. Even when me and my brother used to fight when we was younger, my grandfather, he would always have us kneeling on rice, you know what I'm saying, like a bag of rice, with phone books in our hands, you know what I'm saying, for our punishment, for fighting against each other.
Yeah.
Or he would have us reading the Bible, singing to each other, and like I said, I was always in them scriptures, man. But at this time I was like halfway in, halfway out, and I was like, you know what, I need the bag, that big bag, because this is a very big opportunity for me. You know, because me, I always wanted to, you know, do it, and then at the same time, you know, transition, because that really wasn't my life like that. I just wanted to make money and get out of it. You know, make a certain amount of money and get out of it. But lo and behold, thought upon it, and I was like, you know what, brother, you're right. You know what I'm saying? And he started showing me some scriptures. He sent me Elder Ricard's you know, videos or whatnot on YouTube. And around this time it was like very early 09.
Oh yeah.
And lo and behold, man, like, you know, after a few months, I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm with this, man. You know what I'm saying? And what he's saying is true. So slowly, I pulled up out of it. You know, and we got baptized in 09 in August. And alongside with Elder Ramar, you know, praise the Most High for that good brother.
Yeah.
And you know, we got baptized. Elder Ricard changed my name from Merlin, you know, which was a sorcerer. We'll call Malak. That's how my name was changed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I didn't know it was Merlin.
It was Merlin.
That connected some dots for me.
It was Merlin.
Some dots connected.
the Levite and the Merlin. I was like, what a coincidence.
But you know what?
One thing about me, anybody who know me in this truth, my word is bond. Like, it just, I can't, as a young man, I made sure I'm a man of my word. Like, I got to be loyal. I beat myself up about being loyal, about keeping my word. So if I say I'm going to do something, whether that be good or bad, it's just something I do. You know, people threaten my life, and I never thought I would be running, shooting people down, but it was all for protection for myself. I was always a good dude, even when I was in the streets, but you know, you got haters. But I just say this, I'm a problem solver. So the truth ended up coming along because I tried to say, man, let me change my life. I went to jail a few times or whatever the case may be. And I'm thinking my brother was going to be the one in jail because he was a bad kid. but the truth came through because the Christian church, when I joined it, you know, it was too hypocritical. I see my people out there struggling and the pastor trying to shake them down for money. And I ain't know their life. This lady is my babysitter. She can't afford what you telling her to give. You got money. You can actually pay for this one lady's stuff. So it was just really hypocritical. And I hit the block again harder. I said, this time I hit the block Most High. If you don't show me the truth, I'm finna like go like real hard, because I'm finna be Robin Hood out here, because I'm like, it feels like Esau can get away. It's like David when he writes about in the Psalms. It's like, how's the wicked getting all of this stuff? We sitting here trying to do it right and we still struggling. So I just like, man, I'm gonna be the hood Robin Hood. I'm gonna be out here doing whatever. I mean, I don't know. I just, wherever it takes me, that's where I'm going in. But I knew one thing. When you go real deep in this game, whatever you do in life, it's going to come with some sacrifice. And that's whether you're going good or bad. The good comes with sacrifice, because what is that? That's faith. That's faith that Abraham needed. That's a sacrifice. It's faith. When it comes to Isaac, when it comes to him listening to the Most High going out here, the world come with the same thing. You can't be a fool to think you're going to sell birds. Nobody ain't going to try to rob you. People try to kick in my door. I didn't listen. The Most High stopped me from murking a lot of people out here because people threaten my life. And in Texas, if somebody threatens your life, you got to be about that. So I'm afraid to lose my life. So I'm going to hunt you down first. And I did that so many times. So when Elder called me the Lion, I was like, listen, they used to call me the Tiger. That was my rap name. Because, you know, tigers, they roll solitude. They don't roll with the lions. The lions roll in a family. So when Elder Carr gave me that name, I said, man, my name was Tiger in the streets. He said, nah, you got to be a lion now. And so I was like, okay, I got to roll with the pride. I got to roll with people, because people was never trustworthy except for a few people. And my brother, to see him back, like, I mean, man, to finish his work with my brother, to find people you can trust in this world is real tough. My testimony is this. There was a dude who threatened my life, and I didn't do nothing wrong to him, but he threatened to kill me. So I tried to always chase him down and kill him at the club. And, because I knew if he get me first, then I'm out of here. But at a point, I kept going to the club and I kept seeing him. I'm like, I had heard the truth when I didn't join it. Yes, the Most High was kind of speaking to me like, man, how I keep seeing this dude? Every time I see him, me and the boys, let's get it. And then he'll run into a gas station where the cops be, so he can't get murked or whatever the case may be. And I probably would have did the same thing to preserve my life. So I'm not saying he was less than for doing that, for trying to preserve his life, because it's real out there. Like, you don't know what you're getting into. Like the movies and the rappers, that's all fake. Like the real stuff, I've really been like in some crazy situations, man. So when I backed up in that after party in the parking lot, it was like 50 deep. We all had guns on us. And then I looked to the left. It was the same guy again. I had seen this dude over 5-6 times periodically. And we both looked at each other. He was scared because he seen how deep we was. In Houston, we call it mobbing or whatever. But it something pricked me in my spirit, though. I was like, man, I'm like, this ain't no coincidence. This is the Most High trying to show me something. Like, that's because I didn't join that truth. And because when I listened to the truth, I knew it was real. But I had to transition out of this life thinking I'm going to be able to rap for the truth, but trying to, be lukewarm. Nah, it didn't roll like that. So I said, I know what I can do to this dude right now because he outnumbered, right? I said, but the thing is this, I'm going to be dead or in jail. It's going to be one of the two if I don't join this truth. So I didn't tell nobody that. You understand? But after that, I started following the truth, man. And I grew a beard and kind of went south, grew a beard, and we ended up moving to Egypt. And like my brother said, I'm gonna try to sum it up a little bit. He ended up getting sick. We went through our little whatever in Egypt, our struggle, our come up. It's like going through the 60s again because the Egyptians is more racist than the white people. They calling you nigger every day. We didn't, we've been through so much out there. I done choked over 30 Egyptians, man, because the Egyptians is racist. They put their hands on you. They just start trying to fight you for no reason. And you can turn the cheek out here, but out there you got to actually protect yourself. So it forced us to be strong as a community out there. Like,
time is short, and I ain't promised more. Everything that I get, thinking of Lord.
Let the haters in, we don't even mind, cause they might loosen up and start to have a good time. Focus, walk in my shoes and put your toes in, but don't take a step if you don't know just where you're going. Pay respect unto the high and the low, man. Sometimes the sun up in the sky and rain and cold wind. Put your all in, don't fall in. Take a pause, drop a jaw in. Everything is watching, so you gotta keep it right. Every step is like a lesson that you're teaching here tonight. I walk it high, talking, man, I'm different from the best. While everybody's losing, I'll be building architects. I'm stressed and royal blue gold. How can you make moves if your feet too cold? Flying all black like we two crows. Rhyme big body taking over 2 rows. We roll in motion.
Lion and King. Yeah, that was an awesome interview. Right. We're gonna put the link down in the chat so that you all can go see the full interview. But it was blessed. That interview with Elder Aria and Deacon Malak was definitely probably one of my favorite ones that we've done thus far. I know that you had a good time because he's the producer of everything. So he got to actually see and be front row for it and everything like that. So I know he had a good time listening to it too. But make sure y'all go ahead and check that out. Links down in the chat. Really good interview.
The video is actually on the Facebook channel.
It's on the Facebook channel as well.
Yeah.
All right, so y'all can see it there as well. So many places that you can go check it out. Make sure you go check out that particular interview. Hopefully, we're going to be getting some more brothers that have been in the truth for a long time, doing some big things in their careers as far as music, whether it be producing and different things like that. We're going to have a lot of people on in the future, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe to that particular channel as well. So you've waited long enough. Now to get into the scriptures. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been going into a series called "The Path to the Kingdom." Right, the path to the kingdom. And in the first lesson, we did the purging of the rebels. Right, talking about what would be going on, particularly in the wilderness, sort of starting from the beginning and working our way back, because we know the wilderness is the final step before the kingdom comes, right? And then the next week we went into the kingdom is within you, which was last week, sort of dealing internally with the power and the might that our people possess genetically and spiritually, the power to not only build but destroy kingdoms. So we're looking it's internally as in this particular lesson as well. Purging of the rebels was external, right? And some of what we talked about in Purging of the Rebels applies in this particular lesson, because a lot of what's going on is external, but the solve is internal. And in the kingdom of heaven is within you is also an internal lesson. But today we're going to be going into the trials to the kingdom, which is external. Which is external. The perils that will befall us on our journey to the kingdom, and how to guard and protect ourselves from such perils. Speaking of, for those in the room, alert, alert, alert. Those in the chat as well, alert. When you think about the last days and the trials that and the perils that the scriptures say will befall on our way to the kingdom, what does that look like for you? What do you visualize the end days, the final days of Jacob's trouble? How do you envision that? How do you see it? It's a difficult question. Go ahead.
Apocalyptic.
Mm-hmm. How do you view apocalyptic? Explain that.
Well, according to the media, you see red skies, like dead trees, things on fire, like people going crazy. Like the Purge, the movie The Purge, like there's no law anymore. Like people just do whatever they want.
People losing their minds, right? Anybody else? Demonic activity. Perfect. Anything else? You don't got nothing? Yeah.
I feel like it would be the opposite of what I think.
And what is the opposite of what you think?
I do think like a lot of spiritual stuff would be like more exposed, stuff that you don't see regularly, like you don't recognize as a spiritual thing will be you actually see as a spiritual thing. I don't think it would be like fires and stuff everywhere, but I do think a lot of the stuff that you hear about, like the government and stuff doing and planning, will be exposed and you'll see it. But I don't know if it'll be like almost like apocalyptic in a way.
Well, the truth of the answer is it's going to be both. And how we know it's going to be both is because the scriptures talk about different things that are going to be happening in the last days. Famines, right? The withholding of rain, food shortages, right? So when you take people in a country like this one, where you pack people into cities and you take away food, you take away water, and you try to put lockdowns on them, you take their weapons, what do you think begins to happen? Chaos, right? You see violent. We saw one black man get killed. Shoot, we saw the Philadelphia Eagles win the Super Bowl and they started tearing up, started burning down cities. So when you take those things into account, but yet you start to remove necessity, right? What begins to happen? The community begins to deteriorate. People lose their minds, right? So there's going to be a little bit of both, the release of the spectre and the shadim. So one lesson that we're going to refer you to is the beginning of sorrows, lesson that we did on the beginning of sorrows, highlighting what would be going on in the last days, specifically from Baruch. We're going to go into it in this particular lesson in part 1 and 2, but that lesson specifically highlights a lot of the things that's going to be going on. We're going to go a little bit more in depth in that a little bit later, but the answer, the answer is both, right? So the answers that we got when we asked the question, what does the end days look like to you, right? We heard apocalyptic, right? We heard demonic activity. We heard more so spiritual activity out in the forefront, right? So when you examine what the end days look like, it makes all of those things are true, right? When you take away law, you take away necessity, food, water, and the freedom to travel, people lose their minds. And then you start including things like implementing vaccines and different things like that is messing with people's minds, causing people to lose their minds, right? Now you have a certain level of chaos that will be involved. Now, the next question is how do you protect yourself? How do you protect yourself? Let's get Luke chapter 22, verse 35, because the scriptures tell us that we have a work to do. As a bishop, as an elder, of churches over a body. There's a work to be done, right? Christ sent us to establish a righteous government here on earth that he'll be coming back for to establish in the new kingdom. So there's a work to be done, Con. So understanding that, there's something worth protecting. And Christ understood this as well. Christ understood this. Let's get Luke chapter 22, verse 35.
Luke chapter 22, verse 35. And he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said nothing.
He said, okay, so when I sent you out with nothing, you didn't lack anything. You fasted through faith, you received all necessity, right? You had no money. You had no doctrine. I sent you and the Spirit provided, right? He said, lack ye anything. Verse 36.
Verse 36. Then he said unto them, but now he that hath purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one.
Hold up. I thought Christ said we turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. He said, if you don't have a sword, sell your clothes and buy one. Why is Christ placing emphasis on preparing yourself for battle? For a fight. That's what a sword is for. A sword is not for you. Listen, you ain't tilling no ground with the sword. Right? He said, now you have money. Take it. Likewise, and your doctrine. So he's saying there's work. You have the finances. What does the scripture say money is? Money is a defense, right? So all of these things which he's talking about here are meant for protection, for protecting the work. Not only doing the work, but protecting the work. He said, if you have no sword, sell your garment and buy one. Read.
Verse 37. For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors. For the things concerning me have an end.
For the things concerning me have an end. Read.
Verse 38. And they said, Lord, behold, here are 2 swords. And he said unto them, it is enough.
What Christ is explaining here is that there's a work to be done. And when I'm gone, they will persecute this ministry. And you will need an instrument to protect it. Right? Not only do you need to do the work and continue to build the church, but as more people come unto you, the more persecution you will endure. When Christ said turn the other cheek, he wasn't talking about somebody punching you in the face. He was talking about what is done unto you. If someone offends you, someone steals from you. Right? This is talking about spiritual offense. This is talking about one against another. It's not talking about somebody putting their hands on you. Christ said, there's something that needs to be written and it's accomplished in me. After I pass away, after I'm gone, this ministry will be under a heavy attack. How do we know this? We have Acts chapter 8. Acts chapter 8. It's in the tab next door.
Acts chapter 8.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let me make this bigger.
Control plus. Oh, there you go.
Okay.
All right.
Acts chapter 8, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And Saul was consenting unto his death.
This is Paul, right?
And at that time, there were great persecution against the church, which was at Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all scattered abroad throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 2. And devout men carried Stephen to his burial, and made great lamentation over him.
Mm-hmm.
As for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering into every house, and hailing men and women, committed them to prison.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 4. Therefore, they that were scattered abroad, everywhere preaching the word.
So the church, after Christ passed away, after Christ died, was under heavy persecution by Saul, who we would later know as Paul. Right? So Christ knew that the church would endure persecution after his death, and sure they did. People were being carried off to prison. People were being murdered. He was entering people's houses and removing them, right? Everyone, to the point to where everyone was scattered abroad. But guess what? The work continued to be done. This is why Christ said, listen, I send you with purse. You have a purse. Now you have a purse, and likewise a script. But if you don't have a sword, sell your garment and buy one. Right? This statement that Christ made completely changes the perspective on what not only his ministry was, but how the early church, as well as Israelites, protected itself. Our people, this church, was strapped to the nines. And we had to be. Because not only did we have the Roman government coming after us, we had the local governments coming after us, and our own people coming after us. This is the reality and the nature of this ministry. Keep in mind, Christ said, as in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. What were they doing to the righteous in the days of Noah? They were hunting them. In the days of Noah, they were hunting down the righteous and killing them like animals. So Christ is let us know on multiple occasions, as in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. I send you with purse and script. If you don't have a sword, buy one. So essentially what he's telling you is, prepare yourself for the hunting of the righteous. See, the difference between then and now is, whether you had a sword or not, they're going to walk up in there. And they did walk up in there. They broke into people's houses and they took them forcefully. But what's happening here in America? Now they're convincing the people that your own method for protecting yourself is a danger to you. Thus convincing people to take the very thing that Christ told you to have and turn it away, turn it in. Now that very sword that Christ told you to have for the protection of the work and for the protection of your ministry and your family, you no longer have, which makes the hunting of the righteous all the more simple. That's the difference. The Roman government has become smarter. They said, you know what? Why do we need to kick in doors and risk the lives of our soldiers if we can convince them that their only method for protecting themselves, the very thing that's keeping the militaries out of their communities, is a danger to them? Promoting school shootings, promoting mass shootings. Have you seen any of those in our community? So why do you want to disarm us? Our communities have nothing to do with the mass shootings and school shootings. That's not happening in our communities. So why do we need to turn over the single and solitary means for our protection? People, it's much easier to destroy a people who aren't protected than the people that are strapped. It's no different than in 70 AD. They put up the walls, they built a trench, they trapped us in. And they waited for us to become weak, for our people to famine, for us to begin to turn on each other before they finally came in 70 AD and took our people down. Christ knew this. Many believed that the church was a defenseless unit that was always vulnerable to enemies. If that was the case, why didn't the Romans just kick down our door in 70 AD? If our people weren't equipped to defeat their army from the position we were in, why did they feel the need to entrench and pick us off one by one and wait? Why didn't they just kick the doors in? It's because our church, the body, Israel itself, was not defenseless. So this idea that we as a ministry, that we as a church must turn the other cheek and allow people to kick our behinds on a daily basis is false. Christ didn't stand for that. The church wouldn't have lasted if he stood for that. If the disciples or the apostles stood for that. This was not only false for Christ and his ministry, but also for Israelites throughout history. Israel was a proud and battle-tested nation that was always ready for a fight. Call it combative. Call it combative. Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 17.
Nehemiah chapter 4, verse 17. They which build it on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that laid it, every one, with one of his hands wrought in the work.
So with one hand, he did the work. What was he doing with the other hand, Reed?
And with the other hand, held a weapon.
So he was doing the work with one hand and had a weapon in the other. The children of Israel understood. It's like, listen, there's work to be done. But the second I turn my back to work, someone could come and try to strike me from behind. So Israel stayed ready so they wouldn't have to get ready. Read.
Verse 18. For the builders, everyone had his sword girded by his side, and so builded.
So he built and had his sword on his hip. Read.
And he that sounded the trumpet was by me.
And he that sounded the trumpet was by me. So you had the whistleblower, the trumpet, and you had men that were building with the swords on their side. So what? If the trumpeter sees someone coming, he would blow the trumpet and they could turn and prepare for battle. So what are our people thinking that, oh, we just got to do the work and there's no need. God will protect us. Of course he will. That don't mean you don't need to have protection. Listen, if someone comes to kick your door in, you need to be able to defend you and the people within that house. Men, that is your duty. That is your job as the head of your household to protect yourself and everyone within your household. Being prepared that should it happen, not only are you prepared to die for your family as the head of your household, but knowing that your household can survive without you for a time. So you're not only equipping yourself for the battle, but you're equipping your family, your children for the battle. These are the times we're living in. People don't want to hear it. People don't want to hear about the last days. That's why the Christian church never comes out of the book of Revelation. It scares them. But understand, we're going into some very scary times. When you start seeing people flying in the walls for no reason, they just start flying. And listen, there's demonic activity going on. There's a spiritual attack as well. If you think that there will be a time of high spiritual activity on the release of the Spectre and the Shadim, but there will be no physical attack, you're ignorant. And you will be destroyed in this time. That's a promise. That's a promise. Understand. High spiritual activity, understand, with the release of demonic activity and mental illness, understand, there are people who have those spirits and mental illness. So just as those spirits can whip up on you spiritually, those spirits that are housed within a person, call it an avatar, can whip up on you physically. Christ understood this. He said, prepare for battle. If you don't have a sword, sell your clothes and buy one. That's how important it is. Nehemiah is the perfect example of what Christ was talking about in the book of Luke. Yes, there's a work to be done. Yes, you have purse, you have script. There is a doctrine to be preached. You must go and baptize. But as you baptize, when you put people down in that water, don't forget to have that sword on your hip. Because just as there's a person who wants to be baptized, there is another person who wants to kill you for baptizing. We're living in a time where the righteous will be hunted. every man in the church had a sword and was equipped with the proper knowledge to utilize it. We as men are expected to build Christ's kingdom, but we should not be ignorant as to think the enemy will not bring opposition as we do so. We can be dually, the children of Israel can be dually looked at in the scriptures as peaceful and combative when necessary. The scriptures say as much as within your power, be at peace with all men, but that's as much as within your power. If you try to make peace, but this person wants to come and try to shake some trees, I'm going to shake right back. Because one thing that's not going to happen is while I'm trying to be peaceful, you're killing me, my family, and my ministry. That's opposite the work. The work doesn't get done if everyone's dead. This is part of the Israelite culture. We must begin to regain that aspect of culture in order to make sure that that we endure the trials on the way to the kingdom. This is a pivotal aspect of our culture that we must regain if you are to endure the trials on the way to the kingdom. It's a part of Israelite culture. How do we know this? Look at Joshua chapter 56, verse 1.
Joshua chapter 56, verse 7.
And for those who think that Joshua isn't a part of the scriptures, don't worry. The next verse will confirm it for you. Read.
Joshua chapter 56, verse 7. Mm-hmm. And on the next day, Jacob again called for his sons, mm-hmm. and they all assembled and came to him and sat before him.
Jacob called for all his sons. Genesis 49. Read.
And Jacob on that day blessed his sons before his death. Mm-hmm. Each man did he bless according to his blessing. Mm-hmm. Behold, it is written in the book of the law of the Lord as pertaining to Israel. Mm-hmm. Verse 8. And Jacob said unto Judah, mm-hmm. I know, my son, that thou art a mighty man for thy brother.
You are a mighty man for thy brother. And went over this when we talked about the lesson on Judah. Judah was responsible for his brothers. Read.
Reign over them, mm-hmm. and thy sons shall reign over their sons.
They were made kings over Israel. Read.
Back up a little bit. And thy sons shall reign over their sons forever. Mm-hmm. Only teach thy sons the bow and all the weapons of war.
No, some of the weapons of war.
All the weapons.
No weapons of war.
All the weapons of war.
Read.
In order that they may fight battles of their brother who will rule over his enemies.
Israel, Jacob makes a clear statement here concerning the sons of Judah. He said, teach your sons the use of the bow and all weapons of war. Oh, but Israel was peaceful. Christ turned the other cheek. We didn't fight. Do y'all understand how many people died at the hands of Israel just conquesting Israel? Just to take the land of Canaan? Listen, there was listen, there's a reason why Esau had to wait such a long time for people to come against Israel. People were afraid of Israel. It's like, shoot, you hold up. When Zepho went to Angeus, the king of Africa at the time, he was like, hey, yo, let's go make war against the Israelites. Keep in mind, we still aren't a nation yet. Israel still isn't a nation yet. You're talking about maybe 70 souls. A couple more. And Zepho sought to make war with the children of Israel using Angeus the king's army. And they're like, no, no, we ain't going, no, not them. You talking about Judah and Joseph and all them? No, we don't want none of that. You can keep that. And that's throughout history. The only times when the nations felt comfortable coming up against Israel is when they knew we were in sin. Because when we're in sin, the Most High gives them the power to destroy us and to defeat us. Scroll all the way down to the bottom of the document to get 2 Samuel. I wasn't going to get this in this lesson. I was going to get it in part 2. But since I hit on this point, I think it's necessary. Let's get 2 Samuel chapter 22, verse 32.
2 Samuel, verse 22, verse 30, chapter 30, 22, verse 32. For who is God, save the Lord? And who is a rock, save our God? God is my strength and power.
God is my strength and power, read.
And he maketh my way perfect. He maketh my feet, hinds feet.
Right? He maketh my feet like hinds feet. What is it? What is this referring to? Not Naphtali. The scriptures say Naphtali is a hind let loose, meaning that he has swift feet. He can run fast, right? Read.
And sitteth me upon high places. Verse 35. He teaches my hands to war.
He teacheth what?
My hands to war.
He teacheth what?
My hands to war.
No, to get water.
To war.
No, to till the ground.
To war.
To war. There's not only a spiritual warfare happening here, people. There's physical warfare. Our people are under a very physical attack. He teacheth my hands to war, read.
So that a bow of steel is broken in mine arms.
So that a bow of steel is broken in my arms. The power that the children of Israel had, when you look at the patriarchs, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Dan, Gad, Asher, the power that all of them had that we read in the book of Jasher was supplied by the Most High. The same goes for the children of Israel. Should we break the law or be in sin, that power that is naturally genetically within us, the Most High takes away, making our defeat at the hands of the nations that much more easy. People wonder how the Gentiles could walk onto a land that was covered with our people, millions of our people, and just take us like it was nothing. A cursed nation, people. That's the only way. It's the only way. It says, only teach thy sons the bow and all manners of weapons. Right? That you don't use what? Listen, what am I gonna do? I can't till no ground with a gun. Listen, it's for the protection. Read the second half of we read the second half. Let's get verse 9 again on Joshua chapter 56. Joshua chapter 56, verse 9. Why did he say to teach their sons the weapons of the use of the bow and all manners of weapons? Read.
Only teach thy sons the bow and all the weapons of war, in order that they may fight the battles of their brother who will rule over his enemies.
Who will rule over his enemies. So these weapons were not meant to go on the offensive in this time. They were for the defensive. This isn't new. This isn't a new concept to the children of Israel. This is a part of the Israelite culture that we reject. We put on the fringes. We wear the mitris. We get all dressed up. We keep the feast days. We keep the holy days. But nobody's strapped. This is a part of the culture that we neglect, but we quickly need to regain for the times that we are going into. Christ made it clear. If you don't have a sword, get one. And at the same time, when we're discovering, I'm looking at brothers like Brother Josh and Elder Gabar, who are training themselves in the use of the weapons. At the same time, when they see the children of Israel beginning to arm themselves and start and getting ready to protect themselves and guard themselves against the time that we're going into, now all of a sudden they want to ban and take away guns. Interesting. They're pushing it hard now. Now that our people are starting to wake up and say, "Hey, man, it's time to start." Listen, people see it coming. People see it coming. The Gentiles see it coming. 2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 18.
2 Samuel chapter 1, verse 18. Also, he bade them, teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher.
The book of what?
Jasher.
So for all those people who are like, "Oh no, Jasher isn't a book of the Bible," well, Samuel just referenced it. But keep in mind, it's the same Samuel who said, "Teacheth my hands to war." He teacheth my hands to war. So even Samuel knew that when it's time to get down, we got to get down. Samuel was not just a prophet. He was one of the most dangerous men in the land at that time. Samuel was a dangerous man. And he also bade them to teach the children of Judah the use of the bow. Behold, it is written in the book of Jasher, verse 19.
Verse 19, the beauty of Israel is slain upon thy high places. How are the mighty fallen?
How are the mighty fallen? How are the mighty fallen? At the same time when Judah is beginning to realize they must arm themselves in order to protect the work and their families, the government is now doing all they can to disarm us. There is an attack on the righteous men and women of the Most High, as there always has been. But now, as the times begin to consummate and the destruction of the heathen is, but now more so, that the times are beginning to consummate and the destruction of the heathen is imminent. I promise you this. If the United States government puts out a bill saying that banning all weapons, I promise you they aren't going to the white communities first. Those who are watching, write that down. And should they pass a bill removing all guns, I promise you they're not going to the white communities first. They're not going to the Gentile communities first. They ain't going to no Arabs. They aren't going to no Indians. They aren't going to the Chinese. They aren't going to the Edomites. They're coming directly to us first. Promise you that. And that'll be a pretext for martial law in the future. Because guess what? Our people ain't having it. Listen, I don't know nobody in the hood that ain't strapped. Unless you 3/4 of the way gentrified. You don't got to worry about locking your doors quite as much anymore. But should somebody come in your house trying to take your gun, guess what they're going to do? Upon going in to acquire the weapons in said community, a battle broke out. Shooting between both sides. Yes, we quelled it. We sent the military in, but now we have to put this particular city under martial law. Gonna have to put them on curfews because we don't know what else they may have. And so it will continue. Scriptures say, when you shall see the city compassed with armies, know that the desolation thereof is nigh. What do you think they're going to send in to collect your weapons? They ain't going to send in no police. No, they're not quite equipped enough for that mission. They're going to send in the military. What do you think? They're just going to send a police officer with one handgun in? A handgun, a taser, and a nightstick? Into our communities? The attack on our people has become more focused, and the conditions being applied to the earth is a breeding ground for chaos. How many of y'all know the tighter the grip becomes, the more the people resist?
Very true.
The more laws you apply that restrict the freedoms that you claim we have, we begin to wonder where those freedoms are and where they're going. Then we begin to push back. And then the government begins to push back. And now you have what we call a civil war. See it happen all the time. It's not new. It's not that the governments don't know this. It's evident by everything that we see and continue to see. The more you begin to squeeze, the more if you squeeze a bottle, it resists. It'll push back. The more you squeeze, the more it'll push back until it explodes. And that's what they're counting on. They're counting on an explosion. They want an explosion. There's all these things we talked about. Thus, all at this time, the consummation, all these things that we talked about in the previous weeks concerning faith come into play. Faith in keeping the law and being righteous towards the Most High. Because we, as we will later discuss, I will discuss later in this lesson, the righteous must be prepared to endure and survive perilous times. This means being spiritually and physically ready for a battle. Because I promise you, when they enter our communities, they're not looking for the wicked, they're looking for the righteous.
Right.
I'm going to say that again. When they come into our communities and they break down the doors, they're not looking for the wicked, they're looking for the righteous. 2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 18. How we know this?
2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 18. Now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them, and to those that are left behind.
And to those that are left behind. A lot of people, we see the movies Left Behind. Oh, God, you don't want to be left behind. You want to be the ones that puff in the smoke and your clothes be on the ground. Everybody wondering where you went. You want to be the one that disappeared like Obi-Wan Kenobi. And hey, swipe, his clothes just hit the floor. It says, now understand I the things that are laid up in the latter days, which shall happen unto them and to those that are left behind. Read.
Verse 19. Therefore are they come into great perils and many necessities, like these dreams declare.
They come into great perils and many necessities, many needs, food, water, shelter. All these things are necessities. And great perils, dangers. So we'll have necessities and great perils in this time. Read.
Yet it is easier for them that is in danger to come into these things.
It's easier for you. It's easier for him that is in danger to come into these things. But what? Read.
Than to pass away as a cloud out of the world.
Oh, I thought that's what they said the first rapture was. Christ will come back on a cloud and sweep them up in the rapture. He said it is easier for him that is in danger to come into these things than to pass away as a cloud out of the world. Read.
And not to see the things that happen in the last days.
So Christians are afraid to see what happens in the last days. Like I said, they don't even want to hear about it. That's why nobody reads from the book of Revelation no more. They'll want to hear about what's going to go on in the last days. And they definitely don't want to see it. So they're like, oh, good thing the rapture coming. We're going to be gone. It's going to be by and by the time this happened here. Ezra says you want to see the last days. Because if you don't, that means you were taken. Being left behind is a good thing. That's what you want. If you're left behind, that means you did something right. It's like, oh, okay, I'm still here. All right. Be one of them ones that's passed away in a cloud if you want to. You just get poof. You think that the rapture wasn't a doctrine that people weren't teaching back then? Why would Ezra just bring it up? Why would he bring up just to pass away out of a cloud, like as a cloud out of the world? Well, I hope I die before then. See, we're going to talk about the elders that are being taken in this time. Right? We're going to talk about that as well. Because that's a little bit different. That's a little bit different. Their circumstances are different. Check this out, read.
And he answered and said unto me, and said, verse 21, the interpretation of the vision shall I show thee, and I will open unto thee the thing that thou hast required, whereas thou hast spoken of them that are left behind. This is the interpretation.
He says, whereas thou hast spoken of them that were left behind. What's the term interpretation? Verse 23.
He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself.
He hath kept himself. If you endure the peril of that time, you have kept yourself. So the goal is not to bypass the peril. The goal is to make it through the peril. Read.
that they be falling into danger. Well, let me back up a little bit. They that be falling into danger are such have works.
Oh, now people are going to look at that and say that don't make sense. I thought that if you have works, I thought if you had works and faith, that we would get puffed up into the cloud, that we would be rewarded and not have to see the danger. Ezra says, they that be fallen into danger, those that are left behind, are such that have faith and works. Read.
And faith towards the Almighty.
They that be fallen into danger are such that have works and faith towards the Almighty. What does that mean? The Most High is guarding you. Though you fall into danger, the Most High has a hedge surrounding you. Why do you think Samuel said, teacheth my hands to war? Teacheth my hands to war. See, the Most High gives us the power. He gives us the power to protect ourselves, just as he gives us the power to obtain wealth. He gives you the power to obtain wealth, but that doesn't mean you don't have to work to get it. If Samuel was only to be protected and guarded by the Most High, why would he say, teach my hands to war, as if he didn't have to do work? Samuel's hands still had to do something. They still had to do battle. Even though the Most High's protection of his head was upon him. Interesting, isn't it? We get into this idea where we can just sit back, relax. There's nothing that we have to do. Samuel is showing you something different. Faith without works is dead. He says, listen, I understand that there's protection, but this is protection that I have to work for. So Father, teacheth my hands to war, that a bow of steel may be broken in mine arms. Right? Part of it is having a bow. Part of it is actually using your hands. How many of you know the Most High can use you as a vessel of protection? How do you think it is that the children of Israel will go into battle and not lose a man? That's the power of the Most High. But keep in mind, they still had to go to battle. It was the mistake of children of Israel thinking that it was us, that we were the reason why we went into battle and didn't lose a man. That was the mistake of the children of Israel. See, when we got high-minded, the Most High allowed us to go into battle and all of our people would be destroyed. Because we forgot that, hey, it's the Most High who teaches our hands to war. Shoot, you may not know how to shoot a gun for worth your life, but the second you need it, the Most High comes through. He's like, oh, shoot, I just one-shotted everything out here. What? I had no idea you could do it, but somehow you did it. That was the hand of the Most High protecting, guarding you. Teacheth my hands to war, that a bow of steel may be broken in mine arms. But if you have no means for protecting yourself, if you have no sword, how can you then protect yourself? Read.
I'm going to go back to verse 23.
Verse 23.
Verse 23. He that shall endure the peril in that time hath kept himself.
Mm-hmm.
They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. Verse 24. Know this, therefore.
What are we supposed to know? Read.
That they which be left behind are more blessed than they that are dead.
That be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. You want to make it to the end. That's your goal. You want to survive in this as long as you possibly can. As long as you possibly can. We're going to take a quick break and then come back to do the second half of this lesson. We're going to seal it up. We're going to take a quick break. So stay tuned and we'll be right back. All right.
That she called to be exact. Let me see how y'all rock this. dancing down the block. Mind free, I ain't worried about a clock. Thank my father for the blessings, man, they flowing non-stop. Catch me riding through the east side to the hilltop. In the past, I was worried about the wrong thing. Getting fresh, stay faded, couldn't see the change. Had my mind so gone, couldn't feel the pain. Had to humble down to the Father just to see change. Now bounce to the left, bounce to the right. Every day I try my best just to duplicate Christ. But the way it's set up, I can never reach the height. Gotta keep working, trying to make it in the book of life. Positive speech on my tongue now. Trying to spread God's word to the whole town. I ain't perfect, I'm just trying to put in work. Doing like a higher told me, getting ready for the countdown.
Show me guidance, repentance, forgiveness, and what's right. He showed me life, he gave me life, abundant life. And despite of what people think, you've been so good for me.
All praise to the Father. Come on, loud, head out, watch out now. It's the meaning coming to you with that West Coast style. I'm just trying to use the gifts that I'm blessed with. Telling the good news of Christ, I gotta shout it. Too much time being wasted on the streets. Couldn't hear the Father's voice, it was too much noise. Now that I look into the book that he gave to me, can't let the adversary steal my joy. That's why I bounce to the front, bounce to the back. Call the fam, get together, have a righteous kickback. I ain't worried about a thing, cause a higher got my back. The way it slap, finna put this truth music on the map. I see all the drama that I've been through. Even notice all the friends that had it too. It ain't my fault I found that I'm a real Jew. Trying to follow the actions of Christ, that's a breakthrough.
He showed me guidance, repentance, forgiveness, and what's right. He showed me life, he gave me life, abundant life. And despite of what people think, you've been so good for me.
All praise to the Father. Come on.
The light that shines through all it, to gather us to be as one. Yeah, yeah. Ain't got no time for the pain. Gotta find other ways. Just need to relax and party. He showed me guidance, repentance, forgiveness, and what's right. He showed me life, he gave me life, abundant life. And despite of what people think, you've been so good for me.
All right, we are back. We back. All right. So when we're examining these times that Esdras is talking about here, he says he brings up perils, and we already examined what needs to be done. Now we're going to begin to examine why it needs to be done, right? Because a lot of people are going to say, well, God is my protector, this and that. Listen, with the things that are supposed to befall the earth, the Most High gave you warning for a reason, right? The Most High gave you warnings for a reason. Our people in this time, we have to avoid fear or remain focused on the mission. Remember, there's still a work to be done. A lot of people are just focused on the survival aspect of this when there's an entire work that still needs to be completed, even through the perils that we will endure. Mm-hmm. There will be people who are added to the body in the church as we are being persecuted. No different than as we read in Acts chapter 8. The church was being persecuted, but they still continue to add brothers and sisters to the ministry, to the work. We have to remain focused on the mission, which is to teach the gospel of Christ throughout the four corners of the earth. For those who are and for those who are learning, right? For those who are learning to protect yourselves spiritually and physically under the guidance of your leadership. Let's get Sirach, Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 13 in your Apocrypha.
Ecclesiasticus chapter 2, verse 13. Woe unto him that is faint-hearted.
You're weak. You're always worried about everything. You're afraid of everything. Oh, God, the military's on the street. What are we going to do? Woe unto him who is faint-hearted. Always call, hey, I saw a military truck on the street. Elder, what we supposed to do? Is it time to go yet? Read.
Woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not.
For he believeth not. Read.
Therefore he shall not be defended.
He shall not be defended. Those without faith will not be protected. There will be no hedge. There will be no defense. Verse 14.
Woe unto you that have lost patience.
Is it time to go? Is it time to go? I saw the it's time to go. Oh, we got to get out of here. We got to flee. I mean, we as a ministry, we're supposed to tell you what the Most High says. And the Most High says, get ye from Babylon, lest ye partake in their curses. Yeah, of course we're supposed to leave Babylon. That don't mean we got to leave right now. There's still work that needs to be done here. It says, woe unto you that have lost patience. Read.
And what will you do when the Lord shall visit you?
What will you do when the Lord shall visit you? Read.
Verse 15. They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word. Mm-hmm. And they that love him will keep his ways.
You sit and you wait for the Most High and his Holy Spirit to tell you to move. Everybody's moving according to fear. You flee a lion and run into a bear. Mm-hmm. You go from a bad situation to a worse one. You get scared and you leave your house where you have some level of security. Go somewhere else and you wind up in a Walmart. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Those who, if you know, you know. You're going to be in a cage somewhere. Because the elders told you to be patient and wait. But instead, you moved out of fear.
One moment, everyone. One moment. Sorry about that.
Those who are operating and making choices out of fear and not using the reasoning that comes with the Spirit and the Most High's word, they are dangerous. I'm going to say that again. Those who are operating and making choices out of fear and not reasoning using the Spirit and the Most High's word are dangerous. They will get you caught up. Good. Mm-hmm. People who make moves and flee according to fear and not knowing, without knowing the true reasoning of Christ, saying, when you are persecuted in one city, flee into the next, will flee a lion and run into a bear. Christ said, when you are persecuted in one city, flee into the next, not when you fear persecution. Run into the next city before you can be persecuted. We must be aware of the danger that is to come in this time in order to be able to pray and make the right adjustments for the Holy Spirit, using the Holy Spirit as our guide. There is a work to be done everywhere that we are. And until that work is completed, we go nowhere. We move according to the Holy Spirit and the Most High's word only. There's no other authority. There's no other way to do it. And if you aren't seeking to follow the guidance and the wisdom of the elder of your ministry, then you can't rock here. Because not only are you going to put you and your family in danger, but you'll put other men and their families in danger. And that is something that we, the House of Judah International Fellowship Church, will not stand for. We have too much of a responsibility to not only your family, but the other families of this ministry. That's right. Be aware of the danger, but don't succumb to the fear surrounding the danger. Because there'll be a lot of things that are put on TV that will worry you, that will cause fear. And through your fear, you will make a bad decision that you cannot come back from. They're going to be oh yeah, there's a war in such and such city. You're in that city. You see nothing happening, but because you're so absorbed in the TV, we got to get out of Milwaukee. Yeah, they're putting it on TV, but you don't see it because of the fear that they've sparked inside of the community or where you are. Through fear, you move, fleeing a lion and running into a bear. Hebrews chapter 2, verse 15.
Hebrews chapter 2, verse 15. And deliver them through fear of death, were all their lifetime subject to bondage.
Fear causes servitude or slavery. It's the only way you can keep someone bound. That's how you control people. If you can inspire fear, you can then control them. If you can bring forth a scenario that can inspire fear in a person and then bring your own solution to that particular fear, your own resolve to that particular fear, you can control people. The last kind of person that you want to be surrounded with in this time is a person who's driven by fear. Because they're slaves to the ones that inspired that fear. I'm going to say that again. People who are driven by fear are dangerous because they are controlled by the people that inspired that fear. The second our people stop fearing death is when we become more dangerous to the world's infrastructure. I don't fear death. I don't fear death. Because as far as I'm concerned, death isn't in the books until it is. And should I die, I know it's the plan of the Most High, not my own. And I know that with death, there's life after. So I'm not worried about death. Are you? Who in here is afraid to die? Be honest. Be honest. See, we got some honesty in here. There she go. See? That's a fear that you'll have to address. That's a fear that you'll have to address. Come to peace with that, or you'll be driven with the fear of death. They will use it. Why? Because the righteous will be hunted. The righteous in this time will be hunted. And just like Christ said, there's a work to be done. But if you have no sword, sell your garment and buy one. Christ knew that in the time after his death, the church will not only be persecuted, but it's through those in the church that persecution would take place. That means your own people. It's the people in your community that will be more dangerous to you than the people without. The Walking Dead is a perfect example. For the first couple of seasons, the walkers were the enemy. For the first couple of seasons. But then after a while, it wasn't, the walkers sort of faded into the background and was sort of an accessory to the real danger, which was other people. They began having to fight each other because of the danger that was surrounding them. So I'm going to say this again. It is our people that will be a danger to us. Because guess what? Those who don't keep the law, those who don't follow the Most High, they'll be inspired by fear. They're going to see there's no food. There's no water. We as a people understand that man should not live by bread alone. The Most High will provide. They don't understand it. They don't see it that way. They see that burger patty in your freezer and they want it. And they will do what's necessary because guess what? While you aren't strapped, they are. They're going to do what's necessary to get that patty out of your freezer and into theirs. It sounds funny, but it's true. People will be fighting for grains of rice. Oh, you think that car is valuable? So you got to trade it. I'm like, listen, man, I got a sesame seed bun here, bro. Listen, I just made this thing last night. I know you hungry. Go on, give me that whip you got. And guess what? Currency for food has just gone up. You're going to trade that car for that sesame seed bun. I promise you that. Being prepared for the time is what will keep you in that time. Christ told you. He told you, as have works. Part of that work is preparing for this time. So there needs to be a spiritual preparation as well as a physical preparation on equal footing, though. If you're only preparing spiritually, you won't be ready physically. If you're only preparing physically, you won't be prepared spiritually. In either scenario, you're dead. Faith without works is dead, but keep in mind, also, works without faith is also dead. Either way, too much of one another is dead either way. You need both. In spirit and in truth. Spiritual and physical. Knowledge and wisdom. If you have knowledge but no wisdom, there's no application of the knowledge. And vice versa. You can't have wisdom without knowledge. Because knowledge is wisdom applied. I mean, wisdom is knowledge when applied. And you can't apply something that you don't have. 2 Baruch chapter 23, verse 3. What's going to be happening in these latter times? And keep in mind, this is more so of a broad overview of what will be taking place. We're going to get into the nitty gritty of what's going to be going down when we get into part 2, when we get into Esdras and Baruch. Let's get that.
2 Baruch chapter 23, verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
For as you have not forgotten the people who now are, and those who have passed away, so I remember those who are appointed to come. Because when Adam sinned, and death was decreed against those who should be born, then the multitude of those who should be born was numbered. And for the number, a place was prepared where the living might dwell and the dead might be guarded.
Check that out. So because Adam sinned and death was decreed against all those that should be born, right? Through Adam's sin, death came into the world. Then there was a number. There was a multitude of those who should be born. The multitude of those that should be born is numbered, right? So there's a number of children that must come into the world, the spirits that must come into the world before the end comes. Make sense? So that number, so based on that number, a place was prepared that the living might dwell and that the dead might be guarded. Read.
Before, therefore, the number aforesaid was fulfilled, the creature will not live again. For my spirit is the creator of life, and Sheol will receive the dead.
The Sheol will receive the dead. Read.
Verse 6. And again, it is given to you to hear the things. I'm sorry, I'm back a little bit. And again, it is given to you to hear what things are to come after those times.
Will come. Here are the things that will become after these times, right? After Baruch's prayer, the Most High tells Baruch to keep the souls that he keeps the souls to come in memory of those who have passed, because it is not until all of those souls that are appointed to enter into the earth have been born that the end shall come. Read.
Verse 7. For truly my redemption has drawn nigh. And it is not far distant as aforetime.
It is not far distant as aforetime. But the Most High tells Baruch is like, listen, before y'all had a lot of time. Now, not so. Time's drawn short. The number of souls that needs to be released is very few. 2 Baruch chapter 25, verse 1.
2 Baruch chapter 25, verse 1. And he answered and said unto me, you too shall be preserved till that time.
You too shall be preserved to that time. Read.
Till that sign which the Most High will work for the inhabitants of the earth and the end of days.
What's the sign?
This is therefore the sign. When a stupor shall seize the inhabitants of the earth.
What is a stupor? Someone go ahead and pull me up the definition of a stupor. Right? Now, it says, this is the sign when a stupor shall seize the inhabitants of the earth. Read.
And they shall fall into many tribulations, and again, when they shall fall into great torments.
So they shall fall into great torments, tribulations, the perils that Esdras talked about. And a stupor shall seize these people. Anybody have the definition of a stupor? What is it?
The person who carries himself or herself with the head and shoulders habitually bent forward.
What's the second definition? Wait, actually read that definition again, just a little bit more loudly. I actually like that definition. Read it.
I do have another one too, but a stupor is a person who carries himself or herself with the head and shoulders habitually bent forward.
What does that look like to you? Anybody have any idea? Has anybody seen the videos of the military zombie task force? Has anybody seen Amazon's terms of use where they talk about where they talk about basically all of your items are insured unless in case of a situation of a zombie outbreak or apocalypse? Read that definition one more time.
A person who carries himself or herself with the head and shoulders habitually bent forward.
Sounds familiar? Have you seen a zombie apocalypse movie? Have you seen The Walking Dead? How do they walk? With the head and shoulders habitually bent over. Oh, and now all of a sudden we're starting to see zombie task force, military trucks driving down the street. Interesting. I never saw that definition before. That's interesting. What's the second definition?
A person of little intelligence, a small brain, or a lack of education, a fool, an idiot, a dumb person.
A stupor. So now you've legalized marijuana. You're beginning to legalize marijuana around the country. So people are now beginning to become dumb. You're cutting down the time in which people are going to school. You're making more and more half days, more and more holidays. So children are going to school. Majority of them are smoking weed already. So now you have a stupid generation. and I've said it before. I've said it to, not only to a lot of the people that are still in school, but I've also said it to a lot of the people who've graduated, that I graduated. This is going to be the dumbest generation we've ever seen. They never go to school. They never learn anything. And all they do is want to smoke. So essentially what we're seeing happen here is a stupor is falling upon the earth. An idiot. A person without education. So when you examine what a stupor is, right, you're seeing two things that are becoming more and more prevalent in the time that we're living in. Now I'm going to get a little bit more in depth on that definition of a stupor, specifically in context to this particular scripture, right? So go ahead and the Most High says that the sign of the end will be when a stupor shall fall upon the people of the earth. A stupor is a suspension or great diminution of sensibility, as in disease or caused by narcotics or intoxicants. Let me say that again. It's a suspension or great diminution of sensibility, as in disease or caused by narcotics and intoxicants. So like I said, you're seeing marijuana being legalized. You're seeing more and more drugs entering and exiting communities. You're starting to see a lack of common sense, a diminished level of logic and common sense. And you're seeing sort of I'll call it like this. High is being suspended. Right? If you're high, you're suspended. That's the idea. Right? So being high and suspension are almost synonymous in the context in which smoking marijuana or cocaine or methamphetamines, all of which cause suspension or a diminished level of sensibility caused by narcotics or intoxicants. So we're seeing higher activity. We're seeing more stupors fall upon the people because more people have become. Think about it. You're thinking about mental health. 70% of the North America's population is on some level of mental health medicine. Let's say that again. 70% of the U.S. population is on some level of medicine for mental health. So everybody's on something. Everybody's using something. They call mental health what? A disease. They call mental health a disease. A stupor is a suspension or a great diminution of sensibility, as in disease, or is caused by narcotics, intoxicants, etc. Majority of people who are taking anxiety medicine do what? They smoke weed. And they wonder why, I've been dealing with so much anxiety lately. I'm like, okay, so you have marijuana, which either heightens or lowers your senses, right? So if you spend majority of your time high and you spend a day sober, of course a truck driving past you in your car at 70 miles per hour, making your car go like this is going to make you anxious. Because usually when you're high, you're not experiencing all of those minor details that would happen in daily life. All the things that would worry or concern you don't concern you when you're high. So when you're sober, when you're sober for a day, of course everything bothers you and makes you anxious. Because you don't experience those things often. Think about it. When you go into a new environment, you naturally have anxiety. Right? That's just something that's natural. It's a natural reaction. When somebody dies, you're sad. That's not depression, it's sad. Right? So when you experience these things, right? But when you smoke marijuana or when you use intoxicants or when you use alcohol, you don't experience those emotions on the regular basis. Therefore, they become foreign to you. So over a particular amount of time, if all you do is smoke and one day you experience sober, yeah, you're going to struggle with those emotions because now they're coming in like a flood. Everything that you had experienced for the last 3 days you was drunk, you're experiencing all at once. When a stupor shall befall the earth. These people are the careless eaters and the large population of the world who deal with some sort of substance or alcohol abuse. Some vaccines have been proven to cause neurological effects, causing people to be in a perpetually drunken state of mind. Chemtrails in the air, putting chemicals in the water and in the food, destroying our bodies and mental health. All of these things cause a stupor. When those same people who have allowed themselves to be made a stupor, they shall come to the thought of the idea that God is dead. How do we know this? Read.
And it will come to pass, for they shall say in their thoughts, by reason of their much tribulation, the mighty one doth no longer remember the earth.
Now keep in mind, this sounds familiar. Has anybody read Morals and Dogma by Albert Pike? Where he predicts the 3 world wars. He makes something, he says something in the Third World War where he said people that the Christians, their faith shall be diminished. They'll be looking for something to have faith in. They will no longer, they will create a society where no one believes in God. And it is when no one believes in God that he said in quote, we will usher in the pure doctrine of Lucifer. They'll create a godless society. Interesting, isn't it? We're looking at a godless society. You see all the tribulations, famine, death. And while you're in this stupor, you're going to be sitting there smoking a joint. Seeing all this chaos happen in the world. You know what, brother? Maybe God ain't real. Ever thought about that? Look at that. Look at building. Look. A school just got shot up, brother. Maybe God ain't. How could God allow such a thing? God didn't allow that. The military did. The brother that shot the school stood outside giving warning shots for 20 minutes. And the police force stood there and watched them kick in the door, walk in, shoot the school, shoot people, and shoot the children and teachers in the school, and then decided to do something. God didn't allow that. Men did. See, it's the stupor that'll allow somebody to think that way, though. It's that is those people who have become a stupor that will come to the thought that God is dead and lose hope, and then that's when the Most High will make his return. 2 Baruch chapter 26, verse 1, next chapter.
You want to finish this one? You done with Baruch?
Yes, we're done with that one.
Baruch chapter 26, verse 1. And I answered and said, will that tribulation which is to be continue a long time, or will that necessity embrace many years?
Baruch is asking questions. He's like, okay, so this tribulation, is it gonna last like for a long period, or is it just gonna be a certain amount of years? What's the answer? Chapter 27, verse 1.
Chapter 27, verse 1, this is the second Baruch. And he answered and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided.
Now we continue to see this 12 parts continue to come up. We've seen Ezra talk about the 12 parts, which we'll get into in part 2. We see Baruch talk about the times being divided into 12 parts, 6 bright, 6 dark. The dark longer than the bright. We're going to get into that in the next part because it gives us more detail as to what will occur in this time that we're living in. Right? But here, he's talking about the 12 parts of this particular time. Of these final days is divided in this particular amount of time. Read.
Into 12 parts at the time divided. And each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it. Verse 2. In the first part, there shall be a beginning of commotions.
Things start happening. Chaos begins to arise. Minor chaos. Read the second part.
And in the second part, there shall be slayings of the great ones.
You're seeing people die. People being killed. People dying. Read.
And in the third part, the fall of many by death.
The fall of many by death. You're seeing the elders begin to pass away. No different than in the days of Noah. The Most High took Methuselah before he could see the times of the flood. Right? So you're and I know some brothers close to me that are experiencing this, where they have many elders in our family that are beginning to pass away. And they're like, well, they were fine not too long ago. Now elders are just passing away. You're seeing people who are of age just dying. The Most High is taking these people because he knows they want, at their age, in these times, they won't survive it. They won't survive it. It just simply won't happen. That kind of, when you get up to a certain amount of age, moving around a lot, moving from one climate to another, experiencing long periods of time without eating or drinking water, they won't survive it. So the Most High, that's grace. That's favor. That's mercy for him to take them before these times come, before things get worse. So you have the slayings of the great ones, which is people being murdered, right? Or people of renown being killed. And now you have the third part, which is the fall of many by death. Read.
And the fourth part, the sinning of the sword.
Now you move in. Now this is deliberate mass killings of people. Read.
And in the fifth part, famine and withholding of rain.
No drink, no food. See how all of these adding together is starting to create a stressful environment, breeding chaos? This is why you need to protect yourself. Read.
And in the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors.
Earthquakes and terrors. The eighth part.
Wanting.
The eighth part is wanting. So what's beginning to happen now? You're seeing people who desire what you have. Now there's a famine and there's water. They see, oh, this person over here got water and food stored up. Yeah, let's make a plan and go get it. This is what wanting is. It's like, okay, so now there's a famine. There's a famine of food, and there's a drought, so there's no water. And now we have an idea of who has something. Let's go break down some doors and see what we can get. Wanting. Chaos has ensued. Looting has ensued. Read.
And in verse 9. And in the eighth part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shadim.
Specters and Shadim is demons and poltergeist. So you're going to begin to see high spiritual activity, people losing their minds. You got a dude that was running around butt naked on the street attacking a car. Ariel posted it the other day. I'm like, I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, these people are really losing their minds out here. The attacks of the spectre and the shadim. And how do we know that you have the shadim is poltergeist? This is where demons are directly physically attacking you. So this means you're getting beat up by a spirit, basically. You're getting your behind kicked by a spirit. And the multitude of specters is the demons that inhabit people. Right? And how do specters begin to inhabit people? And you want to know what's interesting? What was the name? Who in here has seen the show Moon Knight? What was the name of the brother who had schizophrenia? You had Steven, and what was the other guy's name? Mark what? Mark Spector. This brother had multiple split personalities in his head, which we know is demonic activity. And the main character's name who was left was Mark Spector. The symbolism is wild, isn't it, y'all? They put it right in front of you. They put it right in front of you. The attack of mental health, demonic activity. Even to the point to where when you see the show, you got people who are being housed by gods as avatars. Come on, y'all. They know. They're putting it right in front of you. This is why the scriptures say to study to show thyself approved. The multitude of specters and the attacks of the shadim. Mental health. Keep in mind, what are these drugs called? Gateway drugs? Gateways for what? Demons, specters. Verse 10.
Verse 10. And in the ninth part, the fall of fire.
All out warfare. Nuclear, atomic warfare. Read.
Verse 11. And in the 10th part, rapine and much oppression.
Rapine and much oppression. Now you're seeing martial law take place. People shutting down cities, putting people on curfews, taking away weapons and guns, rationing food. Read.
Verse 12. And in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity.
Straight up sin. Read.
And in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid.
So now you're having all these things happening at the same time. Straight up chaos. Verse 14.
For these parts of that time is reserved, and shall be mingled one with another, and minister one to another.
One will cause another, and another will cause another, and another will cause another, and they're all mingled together. Read.
Verse 15. For some shall leave out some of their own.
There'll be some that never get one. Read.
And receive in its stead from others.
So receive from another. So it may not have. So one spot may not have the fall of fire, but it has famine and drought. Read.
And some complete their own and that of others.
Some complete all of them. Read.
So that those may not understand who are upon the earth in those days. And this is the consummation of the times.
It says that so that those may not understand who are upon the earth that those days, that this is in those days, that this is the consummation of the times. That this is the end. Can you imagine with all that going on, people don't know that this is the end, that this earth is coming to an end? Oh, it'll all blow over. It'll all come to an end at some point, and you know what? We're going to live in peace and harmony after. Nope. This is the end. This is the end. Let's get Baruch chapter 28, verse 7. Where is this going to happen? Read.
Baruch, second Baruch, chapter 28, verse 7. Is it in one place or in one of the parts of the earth that those things are to come to pass? Or will the whole earth experience them?
What's the Most High in Christ's answer? 29 verse 1. Second Baruch chapter 29 verse 1.
And he answered and said unto me, whatsoever will then befall the whole earth. Therefore, all who live will experience them.
Everyone, everywhere is going to experience these 12 parts. Everyone everywhere will experience these 12 parts. Now you see why we need to arm ourselves? Now you see why Christ said, hey man, listen, if you got purse and script, but if you don't have a sword, sell your garment and buy one. You're going to need it. And lo and behold, the second Christ died, the disciples needed it. They were strapped, just like we will need to be strapped when these times come. Because just as we are doing the work, there will be those who seek to stop the earth. To stop the work, Salakia. Verse 2.
Verse 2. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those selfsame days in this land. Mm-hmm. And it shall come to pass.
That's the wilderness, people. What we talked about week 1. That's the wilderness. We're going to slowly, the Most High is going to continue, the Most High and the Holy Spirit is going to slowly begin to move our people towards this place. The same place where we were kept before we entered into the land of Egypt. Entered into the land of Egypt, Israel coming out of Egypt. That same wilderness where we'll be brought before the face of the Most High and be taken under the rod again. Read.
Verse 3. And it shall come to pass, when all is accomplished that was to come to pass in those parts, mm-hmm. that the Messiah shall then begin to be revealed.
He will begin to be revealed. Read.
And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Those 2 great monsters which I created on the 5th day of creation.
Notice, remember that movie that they brought out with Kong versus Goliath? But Godzilla. Kong is revealed from his place, and all of a sudden, because keep in mind, Behemoth is a land animal, much like Kong, right? Kong was hidden. And then you had Godzilla, who is a water creature, right? And both of them at the same time, the same time Behemoth or Kong was revealed, Godzilla revealed himself, or Leviathan, the sea creature. They know this stuff. This isn't new to them. Read.
I'm going to back up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Those 2 great monsters, which I created on the 5th day of creation, and shall have kept until that time, and then they shall be for food for all that are left.
So after they've done their purpose, all they that are left, all those who are left in that time of chaos will eat Leviathan and Behemoth. Read.
Verse 5. The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, mm-hmm. and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster shall produce 1,000 grapes, mm-hmm. and each grape produce a quart of wine.
So we're going to drop down to verse 8. We're going to get into more of what that's talking about when we go next week into specifically the consummation of the times and what the consummation looks like. So next week, we'll probably call it the trials to the kingdom and the kingdom. Trials to the kingdom and the kingdom.
And the kingdom. Okay. Verse 8. And it shall come to pass at that self same time that the treasury of manna shall again descend from on high.
So the Most High will use manna to feed the children of Israel. Read.
And they will eat of it in those years, because these are they who have come to the consummation of time.
So people think that when we look at the consummation of the times in the wilderness, that it's all going to be bad. No, we're going to be blessed in there. There's going to be manna. There's going to be grapes. We're going to be fed. We're going to be well fed. So the people who are acting a fool will be acting a fool under their own volition, which is why the Most High will destroy them, the purging of the rebels. Because that's precisely what they are. They are rebels. So the Most High is going to provide completely for our people within the wilderness. Right? Why? Because think of it like this. I talked about it in the beginning of Sorrows. On the show Survivor, you're on the show for a certain amount of days. And when you get to the end, when you get down to the last 2 or 3 people, they have a big feast for everybody that's left. Why? Because you've made it to the end. You survived. right? It's like, hey, you made it to the end. You get to enjoy all this food and relax, and you don't got to do nothing. Don't just think about what you're gonna say to the jury when you get to the when you get to the end. Tell them why you deserve to win. Right? It's no different than this. It says, and they shall eat of it in those years, because these are they that have come to the consummation of times. You made it to the end of times. It's a reward. You survived. You endured. The tribulation described by Baruch, the tribulation described to Baruch by the Most High was said not to be restricted to one area. It will befall the entire earth. That's why the scripture says, he that endures to the end. We must make it to the end. In order to make it to the end, you have to be equipped with the things that we talked about in the spirit in the first two parts of this series. But you also need to be physically equipped. Remember, Samuel said, teach my hands to war. that a bow of steel shall be broken in mine arms. Right? Even though the Most High is protecting you, he will utilize you for the protection of yourself and your family. You still need to be equipped to do battle. He's going to use your hands. What is the end? 2 Baruch chapter 10, verse 1.
2 Baruch chapter 10, verse 1. And it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the advent of the Messiah is fulfilled, that he shall return in glory.
In our lesson entitled "The Most High's Clock," the sequel, we went over the fact that there are 35 jubilees from the advent of Christ, or his birth, or Christ's birth, to the second coming. This means that there are 1,735 years from Christ's birth to the end of time. How do we know this? A jubilee is 50. You multiply 35 by 50, you get 1,750 years. So what Baruch is saying is, it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the birth or the advent of Christ is fulfilled, or when that 1,750 years is complete, that he shall return in glory. Right? So it's not until the 1,750 years are complete that Christ will make his return. There are no express passes. There's no rapture. There's no skipping over. You have to endure the tribulation. And part of enduring that, like I said, is being physically and spiritually prepared. If you do not have a sword, buy one. If you do not know how to use a bow and all manner of weapons, learn. Learn. Right. In part 2, we will go further in depth with the 12 parts, breaking them down according to Esdras and Baruch, to fully understand the necessity of properly and lawfully arming ourselves with tools of battle and with faith and works. Part 2, we're going to call the trials to the kingdom and the kingdom. Teacheth my hands to war, so that the bow of steel may be broken in mine arms. That is the conclusion of today's lesson. And we'll be getting into the second half, breaking down more in depth what will be occurring in the end. But I hope by the end of this lesson, you were edified according to the Most High, and that you understand where we're coming from. Listen, the House of Judah International Fellowship Church does not promote violence. We do not condone violence. We do condone self-defense.
Oh. That's right.
Because there's a work that needs to be done, and you can't do that work dead. You can't do that work dead. So go get licensed. Go get your license to carry. Go get your license to have a gun or whatever weapon. If you need to go buy a sword, because you don't need a license for a sword, you need to get some throwing stars. Get you some throwing stars. Some nunchucks, go ahead and get you one of them too. Listen, the scriptures say not only the sword, but all weapons of war.
That's right.
So if you can't get a gun license, get something else and learn how to use it. I've never seen anybody need a license for a compound bow or for a throwing knife, okay? Get you something, because in this time, you're going to need it, especially you men. You need to be able to protect your families, and you need to teach your families how to protect themselves. in the event that something happens to you. This is important. And entering into these times that we're going into, you see it drawing closer. You see it drawing closer. I would actually suggest that not only getting your gun license and acquiring a gun, but also acquiring another type weapon that you can learn to use in case you lose your gun. Be ready for anything. Right. Be prepared for anything. These are the times that we're living in. That is the conclusion of the lesson. Do we have any questions, comments in the chat or in the room? It looks like we are good.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
So I want to remind you all, we do have the interview that we did with Elder Aria Gabar and Deacon Rakah Malak, Lion and King. Make sure you go check that out. We have it posted. We're going to have the link in the chat, the link to the video in the chat. Make sure you go ahead and check that out. Show you some support and love.
Yeah. It's also on the Facebook channel
as well.
So it's already on there for you.
So we got those brothers, great brothers from the Gathering of Christ Church. Definitely go check out that video. It's an awesome interview. They got a lot of good things going. Key supplements, get yourself healthy and in shape. That's what Malak's got going. He has his bodybuilding YouTube channel. We can probably put a link to that in the description as well, where he teaches people how to homestead, how to plant, how to work out, get in shape and different things like that. So definitely go and get at that, because all of these things are beneficial to the building of the kingdom of heaven. Right. Elder, do you have anything?
No. Well said.
All right. So with that, I want to wish you all a blessed new month. Today, last night starts the beginning of the fourth month. We also had Intercalary Day, so this is the beginning of a new season, the summer season, exiting the spring and entering the summer season. So blessed, y'all feast, y'all enjoy y'all day, enjoy your Sabbath, and we will see you again, I believe, week after next.
Yes.
All right, week after next. So with all that being said, y'all definitely stay prayed up. And prepare yourself spiritually and physically. Meditate, pray, fast, do all that you have to do to prepare yourself for the times that we're going into. The Water for tuning in. Thank you for once again, we have our Cash App up here, our website down here. If you would like to be baptized, we're planning on doing different baptisms and everything like that. So if you would like to be baptized, send an email to the elder on houseofjudahfellowship.org. So with that, we will say Shabbat Shalom. Blessings, brothers and sisters.
Shalom.